Hello, 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 and welcome to the O Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, CW. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to hit that bell on YouTube and subscribe, or like and subscribe on any and all podcasting platforms. Today, we're talking about burying wrestlers. That's right, the taboo topic of putting people under, not over, under. Is that a term? Putting people under? I don't think it is, but I'm coining it now. We're going to be putting a bunch of people under in today's episode. Why? Because it seems like, wrestling companies have to do that. I don't know why. I guess because you want to avoid 50-50 booking, or you want to, teach someone a lesson, or maybe they're just, on their way down the card. Maybe they're not a draw, so they have to take some L's to put other people over. But I'm of the mind that a loser doesn't put anybody over. Right? If someone's losing a ton and you feed them to, someone who's more over it, let's say, that doesn't really put the other person over. That just makes them feel like a bully, no? Just like taking shots at someone who's already kicking someone when they're down, honestly. And, over the many, many years of pro wrestling, there have been many, many jobbers, as the insiders would call them. People who just take L's for other people. They show up to work and they put everybody over and they just get beat up. But at some point, isn't it just bullying? You're just beating up the kid who can't defend himself. The reason I'm saying this is because but last night, to date this, I was watching Raw, and Baron Corbin took another L to Dexter Lumis. Took a 3 count with no interference, nothing. And JBL distanced himself from Corbin. Now, let's go back a bit. The reason Corbin was put with JBL originally, I believe he was on SmackDown. He was taking L's. He was losing a lot. And he walked to the back and he was feeling down. And JBL drove up. They didn't show JBL, but I believe he drove up and the window came down, and then, I think he did pop out the back, and then he spoke to Corbin. He got in the car, they drove off, and then a couple months later, he re-debuted on Raw with JBL, calling him the modern day wrestling god, to which Corbin responded by having very mediocre matches with people he should have handled pretty well. And then he just started taking L's. I think people got tired of JBL's promos where he was just crapping on everybody. I mean, if there's anybody who's great at being a heel, it's JBL, but maybe he was a little too effective because I think people were just getting tired of him taking shots at whatever town they were in and just hearing his voice in general, honestly. And Baron Corbin was just not performing. Not to say that he can't perform, but he was just not doing, I don't know, something wasn't working. So I guess they were reverting Corbin back to what got him to the dance a couple years ago, which was Sad Corbin. That might be where we're headed. I can't think of any other reason than him going back to the sad gimmick, which was working for him. It was a great gimmick. He was a crappy, sympathetic character. It was a fun angle that I don't ever think I've ever seen in wrestling. I still think they pulled the trigger on Happy Corbin too soon, and it got diluted over the years, where it was first he had scored a lot of money, and then I believe he had lost some money, and it's all weird. But the sad gimmick should have stuck around for a while, because him, asking people for a match so that he can get paid, so that he can, afford his third car or something like that. That's great. We're supposed to be sympathetic for a guy who's effectively rich, but he just doesn't have enough money to live the most lavish lifestyle. I thought was a great twist. But again, I don't know if that's where they're going, but to talk about burying wrestlers, to get back to the point, Corbin has been taking quite a few L's, and it made me question the direction they were going. It became obvious that it was part of an angle when he was just losing to people he shouldn't be losing to. Like, why? I understand why Dexter Lumis got the win, because you can't bring that dude back, have this whole, long drawn out thing with The Miz. end and then have him just start losing. That's not good business. But then you shouldn't feed Baron Corbin to that guy. It's just a strange road to take that down. The same thing with Alpha Academy. I feel like Alpha Academy are the workhorses on the roster. Those two, Chad Gable and Otis. You want to talk about guys who are effectively putting everybody over while being jobbers with fantastic matches. Like Otis is an amazing talent. He is like one of the most agile. He's like the Jack Black of WWE. He's the most agile big man you've ever seen. Doing the worm. He's just so much fun. And the fact that he's been a part of Alpha Academy and has not spoken at all, like he has very few lines, and he's such a funny dude to listen to. If you go back to his original gimmick with him and Tucker, whenever he spoke, it was great. Him and Mandy, they had a fantastic run. He's an amazing talent. They gave him the Money in the Bank briefcase for a reason. They didn't pull the trigger, but they gave it for a reason. I don't like the fact that they buried Chad Gable, who is the best wrestler that they have on the roster. The man is an incredible talent. Just because he was short, they kind of tried to bury him a couple years ago, but now I feel as though he's in a great spot, but then he just loses all the time. He lost to, well, they feed him to good teams, and he always puts them over. But they are burying Alpha Academy in a way that kind of works. Like they're over their, faces, not faces, they're heels, but they're funny heels, and they're always entertaining. But they just lose all the time. They took, They took an L to Shelton Benjamin and Cedric, who are now, reforming Hurt Business, obviously. And while that's great, and there's no better team to get those two over again, they haven't been a team in so long, and for them to come together and then beat Alpha Academy, who effectively have been together for, like a year and a half straight or 2 years straight or something like that, and are a better team. They're a better, like, cohesive team than who the Hurt Business used to be. I don't know, man. That's that feels like burying. They could have given them a different team. Every so often, Chad Gable will pull out a win, or Otis will pull out a win, but it's not often enough for them to. I mean, they are weathering the storm. That's my thing. It's like they're kind of getting buried, but they're weathering the storm because, again, they are fun to watch. Whereas someone like Corbin is, I don't know, not fun to watch, and he's also getting buried. But the thing with Corbin, like I said, I feel as though he is on the road to something new, and he needed to take some L's to get him to that place, whether that's sad Corbin or something else. Maybe it effectively turns him into the modern day wrestling god. Who knows? I don't know what the thing is, but the burying of that dude is pretty substantial. Another person who's been taking some L's a lot recently is Bayley, who I don't think is getting buried, but she's certainly using her status as one of the top women wrestlers on the roster to put over other women wrestlers like Becky. She's putting over Becky pretty hard. She put over Bianca for months. She put over Io Sky and Dakota Kai since she came back. And right now she feels like the vet who's trying to elevate others by her losing. I think I've said on this show before, she can take the L's, but this past Raw, she had a cage match with Becky Lynch and then took an L with Becky with the help of Lita, which is strange. It was a strange run-in. But yeah, I hope Becky starts, not Becky, I hope Bayley starts racking up some wins soon, because I don't want her to get into the Corbin category where we stop seeing her as putting people over and see it just as her getting absolutely buried. Anyway, who do you think is getting buried in wrestling these days? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you, and don't you forget,
I'm your friend, but if I ever see you in the ring, I can beat you. Don't you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.